Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. You know the drill. I'm a retired New York City police detective, and if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon. And we know Ed Wallace is back on U.S. soil when we go live or upload another video. And tonight I have special guests. I have Anthony Gangi from Tier Talk. He's a corrections executive. He knows everything about the correction field, and I'm hoping that Connie Alleyne shows up. She is also a great corrections expert. She's on the civilian side, but she knows both sides of the fence. And we're going to have a conversation about Rex Heuermann, Long Island serial killer, Gilgo 4, a look at his life inside the Suffolk County Jail as it pertains to him waiting for a trial date. And that could be a long time. We don't know how long he's going to be there, but it's a huge facility. I have a very good knowledge of that facility because while I was a New York City police detective, all the way up till 2011, I was in and out of that Suffolk County Jail in Riverhead hundreds of times. I know about the intake. I know about the pods. I know about, the movement of the prisoners, the count, and all the things that we are going to discuss about Rex Heuermann. And it's a very, very old facility. It's kind of run down a little bit. They've done some corrections due to lawsuits, but it is not a really lovely place. I want to say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all the folks who positively engage in this community. You guys are what makes this a great place. Ed and I give thanks and praise to each and every one of you. Thank you to the replay viewers and the folks who buy Ed and I cups of coffee. There's the link in the description to do that. If you want to buy Ed or myself a cup of coffee, we greatly appreciate that. That app and that opportunity is available for you. So again, I wanted to just introduce quickly my wonderful friend and great guest here. He's the host. I almost called him a co-host. I almost demoted him. He's the host of Tier Talk here on YouTube, and he does a lot of great things. He's got a new book out, but we're going to talk about Rex Heuermann's, his care and custody tonight. Anthony, thank you for joining. How's it going, my brother?
Good, hanging in there. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. How are you? Well, not that they can answer me back, but hello, everyone.
But they're answering you. They're answering you in the chat. Fuzzy Doxy saying hello, and everybody, all of your fans. We kind of share the same groupings of folks. Before I get into this care and custody of Rex Heuermann, he's a high-profile inmate. I just wanted to have you tell everybody a little bit about your background and what your knowledge is in the correction field, because there's a lot of new subscribers.
Yeah, so I have over 21 years, about 21 years in the system. I've worked at 5 prisons. I started at a female facility as an officer, worked my way up through the ranks as a sergeant at a maximum security facility, all in the same state. And then now I'm on the administrative end, have been there now for since 2015. So I'm pretty well versed in the practices of jail and prison operations to some extent.
Well, Anthony, you've been on this show numerous times, and I have to say you're a fan favorite. Everybody loves and respects your point of view because you give us a perfect vision of how it goes behind the wall and how the executives and how the staff handle high profile and everything in between. Now, Rex Heuermann, as it pertains to him, he, stands, obviously he's innocent until proven guilty. He's awaiting trial, Suffolk County Jail. It holds probably around 700 and some odd inmates. It's got a lot of problems in the past that I've looked up and was reported, backing up sewerage, bugs in the food, roaches throughout the facility. And I personally, now I'm not saying this just to say it, that I read it. I personally witnessed it myself being in there. The smell sometimes is horrific on certain days. So they have these sewerage issues, and many inmates have, made complaints about that. But jail is not supposed to be a nice place, but it's supposed to be a humane place, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes obviously you have facilities that are very old, and I mean, we don't want we don't really want to always be under the spotlight, but when you do have a high profile inmate coming into the system, it may not be such a bad idea to advertise some of the concerns, because then people may say, well, you know what, we have to address these concerns. So, maybe it's good once in a while for management to admit that there's flaws in the facility, because the other concern is that when you do have the eyes on, everybody's trying to show a picture that doesn't really exist. So this may be a good thing that we get these concerns out there and people will say, hey, you know what? We got to fix some of these stuff.
Absolutely. And you know what? I could have this thought. I've had this thought for at least the last 2 weeks, that we're going to hear from Rex Heuermann's attorney, and he's going to make some type of complaints about this facility. We haven't heard anything yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we heard something about that.
Can I add something to that, though? Because I agree, but sometimes, I will tell you something right now, sometimes it goes on the potential where he could be sent. So having said that, if they start to complain, even if it is on some of these concerns, then the problem is he could be sent somewhere they don't want him to go, or somewhere that's not convenient for the lawyer. So it can go either way. I mean, most of the time when they try to play that game, they're looking to get the person maybe shipped out from staying inside the jail. But I think in this case here, it may be more in their advantage to keep him where he's at, because it looks like he's properly housed and treated within the means that best meet his safety and security.
Yeah, and Sheriff Toulon, he seems like a consummate professional. 41 years in the corrections field. Anthony, I'm muting that mic just because I'm hearing that echoing a little bit in the background. It's very subtle, but I'm just going to mute it while I talk. Eric Toulon, Dr. Eric Toulon Jr., in office since 2018, and Suffolk County is the sheriff in charge of the jails. He's an elected official, so he's in his second term. He won his second term, and he's been in office since 2018. So Eric Toulon has been in the corrections field for 40 some odd years. And, he seems to have a great handle on what's going on. There's a gang intel initiative inside there. There's prostitution, sex. I think they call it why am I losing my train of thought here? But it is sex trafficking unit. Thank you, DutyRon, for catching up with yourself. But I want to play a little interview, and I shared this with you, Anthony, because a lot of times I wanted the audience to know that our interviews are off the cuff. We don't script any of this stuff. We don't talk about it beforehand. But this I did share with you, and you have some thoughts on it. So let's listen to just part of it. It's 28 minutes long. I want the folks to listen to Sheriff Toulon. He talks about Rex Heuermann's care and custody and how important it is to keep him safe so he is able to stand trial. I'm saying we don't want him to get killed in jail or hurt, because then that'll give him something to talk about. And Anthony, before I show this piece, can you just touch on that lightly, how important it is to keep someone as high profile like this safe getting up into the trial? But people say, oh, well, why do we want to keep him safe? Well, we want to hear about what he's alleged to have done. So just talk a little bit about how important that is for the executives in the prison system.
Yeah, so we're trusted to keep him safe, so the case can be heard, justice is served. So if there are any concerns dealt with, that they deal with in relationship to operations, maybe a failure to keep him safe, then that's going to be a problem. That's the one thing that when they put the spotlight on the facility, you want to try your best to be operating within the means that you can do so. You don't want failure at that point, because that failure then will showcase that promise that you made to the community to keep this person safe while they go through the justice system. If you fail to do that, that's a level of trust that you'll never be able to earn back, no matter what position you sit in, whether you're an officer or whether you're on the executive staff. So having said that, this is definitely going to be a priority when someone like that comes to the facility. You got to keep them safe.
Well said, my brother. And I'm going to go full screen with me for a second before we show this video, because I want to say something quickly. Tonight, the 27th, August 27th, 2 years ago tonight, Gabby Petito's remains were found in the Grand Teton. And again, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I'm wearing the Gabby Petito Foundation hooded sweatshirt. I turned up my air conditioning because I got a hooded sweatshirt on, long sleeves. I wanted to represent Gabby Petito. Joey Brooklyn did a great sunset tribute to her. I spoke highly of Joey Brooklyn. He did a great job. I shared it onto my community tab. We're sending, Gabby's mom, Nicole, her dad, Jim Schmidt, Nicole and Jim Schmidt, her father down in Florida, Joe and Tara Petito, and all of her siblings, her aunts, uncles, friends, and all of us who followed that case so closely. Tonight, 2 years to the day. It's unbelievable how the time flies. Time goes by so quickly. So prayers for the Petito and Schmidt family. We send them love, strength, prayers, and positive vibes. And I know you, Anthony, you know about this case as well. So thank you. Thank you for the rest in peace, Gabby, in the chat. All right, so let's show this video, Anthony. This is again, I'm not gonna play the whole thing because it's 28 minutes, but we're gonna play the parts where Eric Toulon, he talks to a Newsday reporter and he emphasizes the importance of keeping Rex Heuermann safe and not having his. I like that he said, "I don't want my staff hurt either." So it's important too, because this is a two-way street. Everyone has to coexist behind the wall, and it's a dangerous place at times. So let's play it. Let's let it rip, and we'll be right back.
The Suffolk County Sheriff was a key figure in the Gilgo killings investigation, providing jailhouse intelligence that helped investigators make their case against Rex Heuermann. Now, he's responsible for keeping Heuermann safe.
And in addition, the security measures we will implement in our facility to make sure that this individual is brought to justice the way he should be.
So how is the accused serial killer faring behind bars? And what's the jail's role now as the investigation continues? This is Newsday's one-on-one conversation with Suffolk Sheriff, Dr. Errol Toulon Jr. Hello and welcome to Studio 2 in Newsday's Melville headquarters for this Newsday TV one-on-one conversation with Suffolk Sheriff Dr. Errol Toulon Jr. Welcome, Sheriff, and thank you for being here and for talking to Newsday TV and our Long Island audience about the ongoing Gilgo investigation. Let's start on your turf in the jail, right? Riverhead. Is it still you still talk to every person who comes in your jail? Do you still introduce yourself to every person who goes into your jail?
No, I do not. What I do is I do tour my facilities, and I do talk to the not only the individuals that are incarcerated, my staff, medical staff, anyone that's volunteers. So I really talk to everyone because it's really incumbent upon me to get the pulse of what's going on inside the facility.
But do you talk to your prisoners as they come in? Do you introduce yourself to them?
No, I do not.
No, you don't?
No.
What about Rex Heuermann?
I did.
Why did you introduce yourself to Rex Heuermann?
I've been in this business I started my career in 1982, so almost 41 years. And even when I worked on Rikers Island, if we had anyone that was very notable, someone that may require special attention because either the crime they committed or things that may be surrounding their case, I would go in to make sure that they knew who I was in case anything was to happen.
And for what reason? Why would they benefit knowing who you were? That you'd be there to...
Well, it's more that they know who the boss is and that the boss has taken some action or even some interest in knowing what's going on inside the surroundings that they're going to be confined in.
So you're there to let them know what's what, basically.
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Heuermann's been in your custody since July 13th. He's pleaded not guilty. And on the day of his arrest, during that press conference, you said that your job was to keep him safe so that he would meet justice, as it were. I'm paraphrasing you right now. What did you mean by that?
It's more important for me that Mr. Heuermann has his justice in the courts and not in the jails. I've experienced, and we've also read different accounts across the country where individuals of some notoriety have been assaulted or even killed inside jail. I do not want any inmate to really take liberties on Mr. Heuermann to build up their own street credibility inside the facility. A former sex worker encountering him, someone that may have been a John or a pimp, anyone that can say, you know what, I did this to this guy. I do know that many incarcerated individuals do feel that crimes against children and against women are something that they won't tolerate, no matter what they're incarcerated for. So we just want to make sure that he sees his day in court.
And he was on suicide when he went in, and much was made of that. Is that normally is that normal procedure when he went into the jail?
It's normal for someone of his stature, and I don't mean Rex Heuermann, but someone coming into jail with the types of charges that he has. So mental health will put him on suicide watch until they can evaluate him for a determined amount of time, and then make that determination whether he should continue on suicide watch or be removed.
And as of now, he has been removed from suicide watch?
Yes, mental health staff has removed him off of suicide watch.
Does he still get mental health evaluations?
Yes, not only does he get mental health evaluations, we still have staff that are closely supervising him.
So you've talked to him once. Have you had an occasion to speak to Mr. Heuermann since then?
No, I've visited his housing area 5 times now. The first time was really just to introduce myself. I think all of the top supervisory staff in my administration have gone through and have spoken to him, not necessarily have a conversation, but at least introduce themselves. Because, one of the things that we want, and really all of the individuals that are incarcerated, is to know who the bosses are in the facility. Because sometimes if you're talking only to the correction officer or the sergeant, maybe even a lieutenant, maybe the actions that may be necessary aren't taken. But if you know that you're going to be able to speak freely to the top-ranking officials inside of our administration, and maybe there may be something that needs to be done, maybe it's just someone that's venting, I feel it's very important that we communicate with everyone.
Now, when he first came in there, I would imagine that it's got to be somewhat of a shock for anybody to be jailed for the first time in their lives. What was he like? What did you all see? What did your staff see?
We saw someone that was sleeping a lot. He was on his bunk. The few times that I visited him in the very beginning, either laying on his back or with his back against the wall, he was still in a suicide garment. He didn't have any sheets. There was nothing in his cell. And now, since he's been removed off of suicide watch, he has sheets. He has access to toiletries. He's reading books. Sometimes he's watching TV. Sometimes he's reading the newspaper.
What's a suicide garment?
Suicide garment really prevents an individual from using the shirt that he may be wearing or the pants.
Some of us call it a turtle suit.
From using that to potentially hang themselves. So this really confines you to just this garment.
And you talked to us a bit about, most people have never been to the Riverhead Jail. Mm-hmm. So you said you've been to where he is housed. Tell us a little bit about where he is housed.
So where he's housed is a special housing area. It's more of a cell type structure. So it's the cell bars that you may see in some of the older movies. If you look at a jail or a prison, we have staff that's outside that supervise him to make sure that he's okay. I mean, this is a lot of stress, I'm sure, on a man that's 6'6", 270 pounds. And so if he should have some sort of medical emergency, at least not only do we have an additional camera that we put to monitor the housing unit, but also staff there to be able to provide emergency treatment or care if it's necessary.
So just to clarify, where he is, there are bars, and where other people are, there are no bars?
So inside of Riverhead, there are bars throughout the entire facility, where if you look at our Yaphank facilities, more of a pod type structure, there are cell doors that open and close that has a glass that the correction officer will look in.
How big is his cell? You mentioned how big he is. How big is his area?
60 square feet is a standard cell in New York State for all incarcerated individuals.
And you say that his behavior has changed over the weeks. He's reading books and such. Do you keep an eye out on, do you bring the books to him, or does he go to the books?
No, he goes to the books. And so naturally, when he leaves his housing unit, we make sure that there's no inmate movement at that time. So if he's going to our rehabilitation unit to take a book out, if he's going to recreation, we will then stop all inmate movement. Basically, all the other services comes to him.
Okay, so when recreation unit, again, most people have not been there. What is he walking into? So what access does he have?
Sure. So he's walking into a yard where he has access to shoot basketball hoop. He's able to do pull-ups, dips, push-ups, and basically Mr. Heuermann is just walking, doing laps, walking around the yard, which really isn't that big, but it is a space that's available for recreation that we have for other inmates also.
And how much time a day does he get to do that?
1 hour a day.
1 hour a day. So then he goes to where the books are. You say where TV is. Does he have access to newspapers and such?
He does have access to newspapers. The TV is actually in his housing unit, so he is able to watch it from his cell.
So altogether, I guess we'll try to go on the other way. How much time is he in his cell?
Wow. It all depends on any given day, but we can safely say somewhere between 18 to 19 hours a day.
And he's getting his mail now, I would imagine?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Do you guys monitor mail?
So we do open up the mail. We do not read the mail. We open up the mail to ensure that there's no drugs, because we do have a problem, like everybody else in the country, with individuals trying to attempt to smuggle fentanyl or Suboxone inside of a book, or soaking fentanyl on top of a piece of paper. So we do check that, make sure that there's nothing, if pictures are coming in the mail, nothing explicit, because we wouldn't allow that. We would then put those pictures inside of the individual's property.
Define an explicit picture.
A picture of a lewd act that's occurring inside, in a picture. If there's a picture with someone that's holding firearms, is another type of picture we would not allow someone to have.
Visitors. He's allowed to have visitors now, I would imagine.
Yes.
And has he had any visitors?
He has had visitors, yes.
And can you tell us family, friends, lawyers?
So yes, he has had several attorney visits with his attorney. He has had 2 visits from an individual that he was an associate with.
A friend.
Yes.
He would define it as a friend, maybe.
Well, I wasn't sure if I would define him as a friend, but I would define him as someone Mr. Heuermann would want to meet, because he has denied several other people from visiting him.
Oh, well, you're getting ahead of me a little bit, because the question is, are people trying to get his permission to visit them? Is that the way it works?
Yes. So an individual would register for a visit, and Mr. Heuermann would, like any other inmate, decide whether they want to accept or deny that visit.
Has he been getting a lot of requests?
Not that many.
Not that
In
many?
the very beginning, he did. He had about 4 or 5 requests that he denied.
And who are the requests coming from?
Media, or some sort of, I guess, criminal justice, or this fascination of these type of crimes that maybe someone wants to see if they can get in and talk to him.
And if he said yes, the answer would be yes.
Yes.
And how are those visits? How does that work? Does he go to a different area?
So with him, we would definitely make sure that those visits are in a different area, because one, we wouldn't want visitors or any incarcerated individuals to have access to him.
And would you say that he's assimilating the same way other people in the jail are, other inmates are?
Yes, I would definitely see that he's definitely acclimating the way we would have thought. The one thing I am very cautious about is the change when if there are different issues that comes up with his trial, different evidence that may be presented, to look for that possible change in behavior.
Well, he's been denied bail, so he's going to be there for a while, with you for a while.
Correct.
Now, we talked about him, but you guys, there's a reason why you want to keep an eye on his behavior. Can you go into that a bit?
Well, I've seen over the course, during my tenure in New York City, from John Gotti to Bernard Goetz to Joel Steinberg, watching how people's behavior has changed when they realize that this is a much longer process that they anticipated. The 4 walls of their cell starts to close in. There's not much more that they can do. 3 months ago, he was walking around the streets of New York City. He was eating in a deli, eating in a restaurant, associating with his family and anyone else he may have wanted to be with. But now all of it stops. And also the possibility of people that he thought may have at least reached out to see how he's doing isn't occurring. And it starts to weigh on someone that's incarcerated.
Well, you said before that you keep an eye out on all of this. So you're watching out for his mental health. Everything is to protect him at this point and get him where he needs to be?
Yes, protect him. And if we start to see any significant changes, we will notify our mental health and medical staff so that they can do a proper evaluation.
You guys, the jail, again, most people don't know this, but you're located right near the courthouse right there. What does it take to move him from one place to the other?
It's a very easy process for us because we are so close in proximity.
So I'm going to stop it right here because we're going to end this. This is the main facility right here where my cursor is, right into the middle. If you're looking at the screen to your left, I'm just circling it around. This is the courthouse right here. So this walkway right here, going along here, and you exit somewhere around here, and they bring you right in, probably right here. It's a turnkey facility, and this is a aerial look of it, and we're going to go to Google Earth and take a peek at it. But I want to come back on screen now and have my guest Anthony answer some questions. Anthony, in that interview, first and foremost, Toulon, a consummate, as I said, professional. This guy is tight. He's tightened up. He's top notch. A very well-respected guy. Again, he got elected to 2 terms. In Suffolk County, you have to be elected to the position of sheriff, and the sheriff is the main guy. He's like the warden of all of the jails in Suffolk County. He said that justice needs to be had in the courtroom, not in the jail. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, that's always going to be our biggest concern. I mean, there could be many reasons why somebody would want to get to an inmate that's high profile, whether it's because of their crime or whether they want to connect to the person's infamy, if you will. I mean, you have to make sure that you take care of any possibility that can lead to an attempt, because it'll also be very impulsive. I mean, this person's case is still ongoing. There could be things that they discover that the inmate population may not take a liking to. So definitely why he's going through the process, and you're still discovering pieces of the cases piece of the case or the multiple cases as it unfolds. It's good to kind of keep this person in a very secured area, because again, crimes against women, crimes against children, because it was a toddler that's also was discovered as one of the corpses. So having said that, you got to make sure that you're on point with protecting the individual as the case develops. So I agree with that. I love how he said that, by the way. I love that. Justice in the courts as opposed to what you would call criminal justice, or I guess justice in the prison. By the way, that is a different type of justice like we're trying to get at. That's a whole different type of justice that you don't want to have play out in your facility.
And that brings me to my next question that I want to ask you, Anthony. He talks about street creds from Johns and pimps, and also other, bad folks that might be housed in the Suffolk County Jail. Don't forget, Suffolk County is home to the Bloods and MS-13, and a lot of gangs are out in Suffolk County. People think, oh, well, it's the suburbs, and there's a lot of, as I'm showing the aerial. Look at all the green. There's places all along County Road 94. 24 over there where you can go and drive quads and lots of open space, so to speak. But there's a lot of bad actors out there. Is somebody like Rex Heuermann a target? Do actually the pimps, the Johns, people that are in there, are they looking to go after him? Is that a huge concern for Sheriff Toulon?
I think so. I think it's a very small world when you get into the jail or the prison system. So I do believe that this person did kill escorts, people that were profitable. Now, granted, I'm just giving it from a perspective. I don't believe any human life should be profited off of. But having said that, if you want to get into the mindset of the people that are inside the prison or inside the jail setting, yeah, I mean, you have people that are running a business, and you're killing my profit each time you take out one of the escorts. So I'm sure in this small world, in a jail or a prison, there could be a few people that were connected connected to the escort. So whatever that type of loyalty may be, whether it be because I did love the woman or it was a profit, either way, there could be a reason for people to be affected by what he did. And that's funny, because most of the time when we have serial killers, they believe that they will go ahead and go after people that really don't have resources or don't have people that are directly involved with them. But then when they get into the jail or the jail system or the prison system, they may actually find those people who were directly involved with them, just in a different light.
Right. And I really feel strongly that the street cred thing, it holds true here, because if somebody was to get a hold of him, even just to assault him, I'm not talking about kill him, I'm talking about an assault, it would be all over the TV. And that's what these people want. They like attention. Bad guys, bad girls, they want attention. And this is a facility that houses both men and women. They keep them separate. But when I go there to do, and again, for the audience, I worked in the trip team. So I was in and out of Suffolk County Jail, Nassau County Jail, Westchester County Jail, Rockland County Jail. I've been all over the state of New York, of all the jails and prisons. But when I would pick up prisoners from here, and this is just a little bit of a tidbit for everybody, when I would pick up prisoners from here, they would say to me, "Take me back to Rikers. This place sucks." I mean, is that shocking, Anthony, that a county jail, somebody wants to go to a city jail, Rikers Island, and it's by no part the Marriott or the Hilton, but when we would pick people up from Riverhead, they would be like, "Get me the F out of here."
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to living conditions, and granted, if the living conditions are bad, if the inmates don't feel safe, they're going to want to get out of anything. I mean, but you got to remember something. I just want to mention something. It's crazy how we compare and contrast things, because from our perspective, Rikers is yucky and Suffolk County is even worse. But having said that, when you're in Suffolk County and let's say you've been to Rikers, if they're just comparing the two and that's pretty much all they know, then Rikers becomes the better option. I know we talked about people who tend to kind of commit crimes just to go back to jail or jail or prison so they can, get off the streets. And it's like, well, why would they do that? It's because to them, the jail or prison provides them a better life. So in this case here, the people that think that is because for some reason, Suffolk County can't provide them at least a more better life than Rikers can. It's just the level of comparison is very unique at that mindset.
I found it very odd when I first started in the trip team, and that was going to outside jurisdictions and bringing people back into the confines of the 5 boroughs in New York City. When I first heard that, I heard it in Nassau County Jail. I was in East Meadow on Carmen's Avenue, and when I went in there for the first time, we picked up two women. Shoplifters from Roosevelt Field. They shoplifted and they got 30 days in the county. And they were like, "I got a city warrant. Get me the hell out of here. This place is a hellhole." And then when we went to Suffolk in the beginning of my assignment to that unit, I went out to Suffolk and I said, "Oh, this can't be as bad. This place looks actually nice." But when I went into it, I immediately smelled the sewerage. That was one of the things that was like a clear indicator for me. It smelled horrible in Suffolk County. So I was just like, wow. I want to ask you, again, Suicide Watch, that turtle suit, I jokingly said that's what a lot of people, if you are in the chat, and that suicide vest, the suit that Rex Heuermann was wearing, I have a picture of it. I'll put it up on the screen. What the purpose of that is so you can't take a shirt or a pair of, like, what goes on the lower half? Is there pants that are the same way? Breakaway? Is this like someone just breakaway pants? What do they wear on the top? We see the top all the time and we think it's a vest, but what's on the bottom?
Well, it should be a one-piece gown that
Okay.
Cannot be ripped or destroyed. And the reason why you do that is if you have someone that's coming from the outside to the inn, going into the jail, maybe this is the first time that they're being introduced to the system. I mean, this person seemed to be some high level on the outside. So having said that, there's going to be quite a fall for this individual now. This person's now entering the jail. I don't know if he's going in with some hope that he's ever going to come out. I mean, that's all depending on what his legal team is pushing. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to have to talk to him. But because of the severity of his offense, even if he tries to sell a bridge to the mental health team that, I'm good. I understand what I'm going through, blah, blah, blah. I still would do the universal precaution and put him on some level of constant watch, because God forbid he does something later and it's rather impulsive. We could always fall back and say, well, we went through this when he first came in. He went through the first 72 hours. We didn't have reason to believe he was going to hurt himself. So after we did that, we went ahead and started to introduce him into some a lighter level of restrictions. But I think most of the time when it comes to someone like this, it's just more of a universal precaution. So even if he doesn't express immediate concern to kill himself, the fear could be that he's going through a situation where he could be very impulsive. So let's put him in a setting that can eliminate as many options as he could to take his own life, because God forbid he did that.
Absolutely. And heads would roll, because this is not just a nationwide case. This is a worldwide case. The whole world is watching. So Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison, everybody that's involved in the task force, they want this guy alive so they can bring him before a court, bring him before a jury of his peers, and have a fair and impartial trial. The top dogs in. Go ahead,
So
Anthony.
You have a very good point. I don't know. Sometimes you may miss it as you express it, but there's something that we have suicide, right, and then we have maybe the jailhouse justice. And when it comes to the attention being brought to the facility, it's like, what's worse? They both will carry the same amount of weight. Trust and believe, whether you lose them on a suicide, because again, that's going to deal with a bunch of stuff and then whether operationally, whether you lose them because an inmate took them out. So either way, that's going to both bring a lot of unwanted attention. I just wanted to mention that. I apologize. I thought that was worthy.
No. Thank you for bringing that up, Anthony. And here's Teresa in the chat. I was waiting for this is the first one that I caught, because I try to stay focused, so I don't constantly look at the chat. I do. Don't come at me. I do look at the chat, because my live interactive chat is very important to me. Teresa says it can't smell worse. She's referring to the sewerage than the corpses that Rex Heuermann left behind, allegedly. I agree. I mean, again, you think about this stuff, right? He's confined to a cell that's 60 square feet, right? Small little cell. We're going to show it on the screen. Being in a situation where you got your toilet, which is right next to your bed and right next to the sink, starts backing up and stuff starts coming out. And then that's where you got to eat. That's where you got to sleep. That's it's a rough go. Anthony, I got to ask you, because we got to move on. Top dogs like the Sheriff Toulon, the Suffolk County Police Sheriff, do they normally talk to high-profile inmates? Do they talk? You saw how that reporter, Barbara Walters' protege, she said to him, "Do you talk to all of your inmates that come in?" And he said, "No, I don't." But she led him right into Heuermann, and he did introduce himself, but he went one step further. He said, all of my high-level executives. I didn't play it because it was later on in the tape. I'll link that whole 28 minutes in the description. He said, all of my executives, my top brass, all went and talked to him. Is that commonplace, Anthony?
Sorry. So first off, you talk really good about the gentleman. So again, guys, this is just my perspective. So there's always going to be a curiosity when you have some high profile people that come into your facility. I've done with a few high profile individuals that they've done Netflix specials. So there is an urge for you to want to go out there and talk to that individual, maybe because you're curious, or maybe you want to tell all your friends that you were able to speak to this person. But I don't think it's the correct thing to do. I really don't, because having said that, we already have a unique situation. We know who this individual is, but we have to trust our officers to do the job. What I didn't like is when he went down to that inmate, he basically gave the inmate a chance to circumvent staff, which means that, well, if I know staff,
on that.
I apologize. What was that?
Expand on the circumvent.
What I didn't like was he said, that there may be special things that we have to meet that if my staff can't do. No, then you empower your staff to do it. My thing is, when I work in my facilities, I delegate what and I push down the how. I let people decide what's the best way to carry things out. I think the moment that you give an inmate a resource like that, it gives them a chance to circumvent their front line and then basically go right to you, which now disenfranchises them from doing their job. So I don't think that was a smart move on his end. I really don't. I have met with high profile inmates, but in the routine of things. It means there are certain things that I have to do within the routine that will bring the inmate to me, not me going to the inmate. And also, if I, at my level, have to go visit an inmate for whatever the special circumstances are, I'm going to make sure I do whatever I can during our exchange, that I make sure that they know that the power is still to my custody. It's still to the people that are on that front line. So I thought that that's also a way that now he has an ability to circumvent what frontline may need to do. And again, if there's not something that your frontline can do, then go talk to your frontline and ask them, hey, since we're going to be doing this, what can I do to help you be more effective at housing him? Let it filter through your front line. So if it is a success, they get the recognition for it as well. So remember, it's not, yes, his facility is responsible for housing him, but it's the front line that has to do all this coordination. It's the front line that has to maneuver him. So yes, I mean, he'll come out and say, hey guys, we need to make sure this person's separate from everyone else. And then the supervisors down will figure out how to kind of, work things out to where he never gets a chance to interact with others. So I wasn't a big fan of him kind of meeting and kind of giving this inmate like that. I look at it as special attention.
Yeah. Anthony, this is why I have you here, because I appreciate both sides of the coin. And this is constructive criticism. This is not saying, oh, he's doing a horrible job. So those of you in the audience, this is just one executive critiquing another. And this might work for Anthony and it may work for Sheriff Toulon. It's just a different style. And that's how you got to look at it. But yeah, I get what you're saying 100%. Hey, we talked about the cameras. He said in this piece that he added a camera, 24/7 surveillance. There's always that issue when an inmate says, oh, the right to privacy and so forth, because what we're going to see here is the cells, how small they are and how open they are. And to have a camera in there 24/7, he added one extra guard. How important is that one extra guard? And is this a guard that's, is this a corrections officer? I hate the word guard. So I caught myself because I was just watching what the news reporter was saying, but guards are a horrible word. These are correction officers. These are correctional officers. They put their lives on the line, the men and women behind the wall, day in and day out. They're brave people because they take evil off the street. Well, the police take evil off the street. The courts, do their justice, and then they have to babysit them before the justice happens. And then when they get sentenced, they have to babysit them for the rest of their time there. So what we see out on the street and the evil, like Chris Watts and, all of these really horrible killers, the corrections officers, the correctional officers, men and women, are there to deal with them day in and day out. But I want to just say the cameras, the extra guard, the extra correction officer, how important is that in a case like this? And that costs a lot of money to put a correction officer 24/7 on the guy.
Right. So first off, we all know you love correctional officers. So everybody knows that. I mean, the fact that you put us on the show, you promote what we do. So you're allowed to get that off, because sometimes I slip, and I've been in the profession for 21 years. So you would have to figure, if I was to estimate the cost of what this is going to cost, I would assume that it's not going to be part of my FTE, which is my full-time employment. And then it's probably going to be a post that's going to be an overtime post. So I'm going to have to assume that I'm going to take my officer that's making the most, and then maybe time and a half, or however we're going to work it. Now, it looks good on paper. It really does. Maybe it's just something that they put on paper to let everybody know, hey, guys, these are the things we're doing. But again, how does that apply off paper? I'm assuming that the officer is just basically in the unit, maybe doing some extra tours, maybe making sure that, if there is a porter or somebody that enters the area that needs to clean or whatever it is, that they have those extra eyes on those individuals. So, again, on paper, it looks very good. But I would be very curious to see is how that extra officer is being applied. Now, as for the camera, so you got to be very careful with cameras. You got the PREA thing out there, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act, which
there you go.
Which does allow for a level of privacy. So you can't. So it's unique. If I have an inmate on constant watch, which is what this gentleman was when he first came in, I can justify putting a camera on him. I could justify kind of watching him as he, does his daily routine in that cell, because there's a concern that he could take his own life, right?
Say one thing, because I caught myself with something. I mean, I know that you're being respectful, but I can never refer to Rex Heuermann as a gentleman. This is an alleged murderer, serial killer.
Right. So
this person.
Right. So we'll say this person, but the reason why, guys, is we have to always maintain objectivity in what we do. So having said that, you're right. Most likely, I know he's not, but I'm so used to the admin terms.
Our audience hates that. And the reason I brought that out is because I know by just looking at the chat and all of my previous comments, they always say, how could someone refer to one of these alleged perpetrators as a gentleman? And they're alleged to have, killed multiple people, multiple women, and possibly some of these girls were dismembered.
Listen, you're 100% correct. The world has changed a lot. I mean, labels matter. Inmates are now incarcerated persons. I mean, so having said that, it's usually more of a level of objectivity. Trust me, believe, I don't believe someone like this is a gentleman. I'm just kind of used to, kind of doing it in the routine. But having said that, with the cameras in the cell, no, but it's a great point. I just want people to think.
I love you, Anthony. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. So, and plus it's fair, right? Correctional officer. Yeah. So the camera thing, again, if you're on a constant watch and you have reason to have that camera on that person, then yes, 100%, those cells are going to have cameras on them. Even an open dorm will. But once there is a bathroom that can be exposed and the camera can see the toilet, then you have to be wary how you maneuver that camera. The camera cannot be directly over an area where you can see a toilet or directly into the shower, and that's more for the rights of the inmate. So now some cases you actually may have constant watch cells where the camera is placed at an angle where you see most of the cell, but you don't see the toilet, and that's why the toilet may be closer to this side. Right. So this way you could put the camera on this angle and not see the toilet. But then again, I also have eyes into his cell at the same time. So the camera may not pick it up, but I'm looking at him as well, making sure that I can see him at all times. But again, if I know they mentioned something about a pod setting, I mean, you may have cameras that show you the whole pod, but once you start placing cameras where the toilet's exposed, where they could, where you can see them go in the bathroom, or the shower area where you can actually see them taking a shower naked, there could be a violation there that can cause the facility to be fined in regards to the inmate's rights.
Wow. Yeah, and so that's pretty heavy. That's why I brought it up. And thank you for explaining that so well. You have to follow all of the regulations, because you don't want to give a defense attorney or a attorney an opportunity to, bring forth a legal suit against the facility, against the system. You don't want that. So I'm going to just play this real quick, Anthony, if you don't mind. This is going over what we talked about, sex trafficking. They created in, I think, 2018, once Sheriff Toulon became the Suffolk County Sheriff, he created a sex trafficking unit. It's been in existence for a while, way before this task force was in place. But let's just take a listen, because they show one of the cells, and this is not the actual cell that Rex Heuermann is in, because his has bars, as we heard in this interview, right? He said he's not in one of these modern, I believe this is Yaphank that they're showing. Yaphank is a newer facility, so it's got the doors with the heavy duty glass on it, or is it unbreakable plastic? I don't know. But let's take a watch of this, and we'll be right back.
It is the human trafficking unit of Suffolk County Police Department that has in fact identified some of the young women linked to the accused killer, Rex Heuermann.
Sex workers, that's the politically correct term. But the truth is, some of them are young women. So
this, what we're looking at here, Anthony, is the newer pods that they have, right? I can't unmute your mic because I think you muted it. So these look like some of the newer pods, and that was the Yaphank facility. This is not in Riverhead, and if it is in Riverhead, it's a newer wing that they might have created. But again, these cells are the same size because according to New York State law, I believe they all have to be what, that's 60 square feet?
60 square feet. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Ann.
Yeah, of course. I agree.
Caught up in a human trafficking ring. Here's Long Island reporter Shantae Lands.
Thousands of women have been incarcerated inside 2 jails in Suffolk County. It's a dark time for many, but a chance to identify and help victims of human trafficking.
We've been able to identify 315 victims and 192 traffickers.
Investigative Sergeant Aaron Menkel heads the human trafficking unit.
They may have been a sex worker making their own money, and sometimes the trafficker will then prey upon that. Sometimes the traffickers will get them initiated in the trade.
The unit is comprised of all women, 3 female correctional officers in constant search of the signs.
While they're here, our Sadie investigators walk through daily, checking in on them, seeing whatever in-custody support we can give. And then by the end of the week, they take them out and do a one-on-one interview with everyone.
Slowly gaining their trust, even identifying several sex workers who encountered accused Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann.
We had reached out to them for sex. Fortunately for these 2 women, they took the calls but did not meet with him.
Sheriff Errol Toulon launched the unit in 2018.
Did you ever think that your human trafficking unit would help in the Gilgo Beach investigation?
You know, when we first created this in 2018, we started to try and formulate some questions without knowing anything because there was no task force. But then once the task force was created, it really helped.
Heuermann is housed in Suffolk Jail. The architect and father of 2 pleaded not guilty to 3 murders. He remains on suicide watch.
So our mental health staff will be evaluating him, most recently because he just had a court date yesterday to make sure that he's still okay.
Rex Heuermann is staying in a single cell just like this one. Nothing but a toilet, sink, window, and a bed. No visits from Heuermann's family, just his attorney, but others have tried.
There have been some journalists and some other individuals that he's refused to actually see.
Did he know those individuals?
That I do not know whether he knows them or not, but he refused the visits.
Meaningful work for Sergeant Menkel.
So many women have told us that jail has actually saved their lives.
So an interesting piece there, Anthony. I wanted to share that with our audience because I thought it was very informative, because it's going to show you the steps that Suffolk County are taking to try to combat this human trafficking, the sex trafficking, and so forth. But we got to see inside the cell, and I wanted to talk to you about the cell. Seemed like, like just a black, plastic mattress. Doesn't look comfortable. A toilet, the sink, and then just a little sitting area. Is that how cells are set up in some of the more common jail facilities like this? This is one of the larger ones in the tri-state.
Well, remember, they're starting to open it, so this is pretty much the bare essentials. And obviously, when the inmate comes in, or the inmate comes in, or the offender comes in, then what's going to happen is they'll probably go ahead and bring some of their own things that are allowed as permitted by the facility. So yeah, you're going to see the mattress on that hard thing. You're going to see what you should have would be a sink and a toilet. Kind of should be one system, like one thing. Maybe a shelf. Some facilities give a desk so the inmates can write letters, with a little stool that they could sit on. But usually it's very bare. I said for the most part that I've seen is the bed, which is a very hard bed, a very thin mattress, unless medical says they need something thicker. That toilet sink type contraption, right. A shelf, and then a desk with a stool, and that kind of sets it up. Also, I wanted to mention something about the sex trafficking unit. So a few years ago, people realized that this was a problem, that there were females that were getting arrested, and then in the prison system, they would have nowhere to go, and then people would recruit them from the system. And then when they got out, a girl that never was connected winds up being connected. And there were a lot of females that were involved in that recruitment effort. They would literally go to jail or prison in an effort to recruit. And I've actually seen that during my time. I know a friend of mine who was involved in that in Florida, who worked with the feds, and trying to go ahead and get the workings that are done within the jail and the prison. So I think this is a great effort because it also shows those that are getting locked up that, see, the concern here is when you have people that are being arrested for these crimes, sometimes they're afraid to admit what's going on because they're afraid that they're going to get in trouble for being the escort. And they're being told now that the greater picture right now is to catch this monster or to catch these individuals that are doing this. So having said that, we're willing to waive all this if you're willing to give us some information. So having a unit like this is a great way to start that trust, because now you have everybody there that's dedicated to that unit to help lift these women up and get them to where they need to be, hopefully to give them some good resources on the outside. Because guys, it all starts in the prison and jail first. They could do whatever they can, but if they can't, if there's no place to pass them off, it doesn't do what it's meant to do. But having said that, this is a great way for these women, one, to find potential in themselves, because I'm sure they're going to have people that are going to help motivate these women to find levels of self-worth, but also to build trust into the system and take advantage of things that they may not have known even existed. And even in some cases, maybe even reconnecting families. I mean, I'm sure that could be a big part of it. So I think that's a great step forward in rebuilding trust, so then we can get a little bit more insight into that world. I think that's a great move.
Fabulous. That's fantastic. Thank you, Anthony, for mentioning that, because I think that's a very important aspect to this, because they are also again stuck in a bad situation, and whatever they can do to kind of rehab them before they get back out on the streets, so they're not how do we say that? Yeah, I hear you say it all the time.
Well, reoffend or recidivism.
Right. So that's a good thing. Hey, I wanted to show a piece here, and this is a little controversial, but it's only 2 minutes and 53 seconds. This is a inmate that got a loss. He probably had a lawsuit. The New York City Civil Liberties Union represented this young man. He was incarcerated for his first time. He was in Suffolk County Jail in Riverhead for 60 days. And he was brought to court and found not guilty of his charges and released. But I want people to see, because this solidifies what I saw with my own eyes myself, just going in and out of that facility. So let's take a listen to this, and the chat's going to go crazy. I know it. They're going to go wild when they hear this. All right, let's go.
Ever since I got out, I'm distraught a little bit. I really don't know what to do.
I'm going to put it from the beginning.
Ever since I got out, I'm distraught a little bit. I really don't know what to do. I kind of went through a lot. I've never been through that before, what I went through in the Suffolk County Correctional Facility. So I'm really not living life. And this is as real as it can get. Riverhead did something to me. For the 2 months I was in Riverhead, we went through horrible prison conditions. My name is Jason Porter. I was in there for a misdemeanor. They don't realize you're a human being. They don't care if you're to them, you're not a human being. They see you like an animal because you committed a crime or supposedly committed a crime. So until the day the judge says that you didn't commit this crime, you're an animal. The drinking water is like a brownish, like a brownish tannish color. The shower itself is disgusting. There was different types of molds and funguses growing on the shower, out and around the shower. It's just trying to dodge that so you don't catch any infections or rashes, which is almost inevitable in that jail. You're gonna get something. The night the toilets exploded was, we were just basically sitting around, and the toilets in every cell on the tier just exploded. Projectile about 6 to 8 feet in the air, all over the walls, all over the cells, the ceiling, and it just began to surmount to about 7 inches high and float out of the tier into the bay area. Feces, urine, like a brownish green liquid, just about 7 inches from the ground, just floating, forcing all of the inmates to retreat to the table area. And we basically sought refuge on those tables for about 30 hours. The stench was so bad to try to actually eat something, it would have been a waste. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to eat with a bowl of feces or a floor full of feces for that matter in front of you, but I wouldn't try it. Harsh prison conditions is in addition to the sentence that the court just gave you. Riverhead was not maintained for so many years that the problems that are going on with the facility, they can't be controlled. They can't. And they could care less to control them anyway. I don't think.
So I wanted to show that, Anthony, because again, that's an inmate that is making these allegations against the facility. I personally didn't witness that, but I did smell that sewerage. And if that's still going on as it pertains to Rex Heuermann, I'm sorry, don't crucify me, but I don't feel bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, so one of our biggest things here is obviously you got to have a facility that operates humanely. That's a big thing. I mean, obviously, outside of the fact that we should operate facilities that way, it could also cause inmates to riot. So we want to make sure that we take care of things that can cause inmates to unite and then try to, what they feel is a justified cause. But sometimes the problem is that even though they may feel it's a justified cause, the way they go about expressing it can always be a concern. But yes, if I had concerns like that in my facility, I mean, all I can do is make sure people know of the concerns and just be persistent. The biggest problem we have sometimes is that when we state that we have a concern and we get a no the first time, we become so disenfranchised that we just like, well, let it go. And you can't. Your job in management is to hold people accountable. So having said that, if I state the concern, I need money and I'm not getting it, I'm going to have to keep on being persistent. If it floods again, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again until either the broken record technique works or somebody will be held accountable. I think a lot of times here, when you see these concerns and it gets to this point, is because someone's relying on the first time they reported it 7 years ago.
Right. Let me just say, you're right. You're hitting it right on the head, because again, this isn't standard operating procedure. This isn't day to day in Suffolk County. This is probably a bad period that he was incarcerated. That video I just looked at, it is from a long time ago. So the bottom line is that this isn't what's happening day to day there. But jail, again, I always say this to everybody, jail and prisons aren't really great places to be. You don't want to be there. And the bottom line is that they do the best that they can to make it so it's, decent conditions, but it's not like you're lodging at a this isn't lodging at a Holiday Inn Express.
Can I add something though? So when the toilets start to overflood and the sewage system backs out, the maintenance will come and they'll try to go ahead and plunge it out, and then they find out it's because inmates are tossing things into the toilets, like shirts or whatever contraband it is, to try to pass it. I mean,
Right.
Guys, it's crazy what they can do with a string and flush it, and then it goes right into the next cell. You saw how the person said that when he had feces, it went from one cell to the other. Well,
Right.
if you tie something to a string and you flush it, it could just also make it into those people's cells. So that's how contraband is spread. So I get that it's inhumane, but then when you go to kind of look at it and try to keep it up, all of a sudden you're pulling out shit, and then you're like, well, who the hell put this in the toilet?
Yeah, and I mean, you see it on a regular basis because you're in there day in and day out. So
Like when they go to complain about their concerns or they get the ACLU, whatever it was, it's like, okay, I get it, but let's start holding people accountable, because
Right.
we just fixed this last week and someone went ahead and put whatever it is in the toilet. This is what we found, but no one says that. No one puts the blame on the people that are flooding it or causing it to flood.
I agree, my brother. All right, so here's an overview. We're going to still be in the background and we could still talk. This is an overview of Suffolk County Jail, and I'm going to do a fly-in to this. I think I'm going to do one. Let's see. Hold on a second. There we go. So this is the main facility right here. And again, Anthony, off of the road, you come in, there's a guard booth right here on the top of your screen. You go around to the outer perimeter here, and then there's 2 checkpoints. This is how I always did it. You come in, you get checked again a second time here. Your weapons are secured, and then you come in and you hook in here, a quick left, and then there's a second gate right here where my cursor is. If guys in the chat, if you guys can see that, this gate opens up. It's by control room. You go in here, and then the intake is right at the end of this door here. Rex Heuermann's his rec time, that 1 hour that Sheriff Toulon said, it happens right here. So you see on the left the basketball hoop, and you see is just like weights here. Oh, wait a minute, I went too far. It looks like weights and stuff like that. Basketball hoop, and this is like a guard booth right here. This is where I guess the correction officers watch through this booth as they're doing their rec time. And when I would come in here to do the lodging, Anthony, I would see at least 1 or 2 correction officers out there, not necessarily walking around, but just standing and watching them as they're out there doing their rec time. Any thoughts on that? This is his 1 hour out a day right here.
Yeah, so some facilities still operate with having staff walk in yard, walk in mess halls, basically where the inmates can centralize. Some facilities kind of do it where they have the cameras, and then basically if needed, they'll go in with a team. But yeah, I think the old method of walking around active yards, even with this person by himself, it doesn't matter. We don't go into the yard unless we're suited up and we have backup. So yeah, I don't think you're going to have many people kind of just walking. I think that it's great to have that view right from the tower. And if there's a camera system, that's even better. But yeah, that's sounds like normal routine.
Yeah. So, and he says that he's 1 hour out. And then he talked, this is where I got confused. He said he was out of his cell for a total of 4 or 5 hours, 18 or 19 hours in out of 23, maybe 4 hours out. What would that be like? Going to like church and library? Because 1 hour out, and then where's the rest of these hours? 18 to 19 hours inside his cell.
Well, right. So one is looks like he's in a pod. So he looks like he gets some freedom when he's outside his cell. It looks like he's got a dedicated pod. So I think he does have some freedom to step out of his cell and kind of move around within this pod. But again, I wasn't sure of what the top cop was saying. But with that said, you got to figure. So you get this is operations that I'm familiar with. So I don't know if this will apply with, let's say, Suffolk, but from the facilities that I've been to. So how the facility usually starts to open up when first shift comes in. So let's say around 6 a.m, we start to get the facility in motion. So again, that's that's the beginning of the day. You get breakfast served. In this case, it could be dropped off by his cell, whatever the case may be. Then the normal routine could be, I don't know how they do their visits, but most likely he'll probably get his yard time after he eats his first meal. I don't know if there's any programs that he's taken at this point, or, well, actually, because he's in a jail, maybe more of activities, because sometimes activities are more daily as opposed to programs, which could be more long-term. But the problem is with programs in a jail is you never really know how long that person's going to be there. So sometimes they structure their stuff based on activities, because at least we're completing stuff. Because you'll see people that are in a jail and they get sentenced, and this person's taking a program, and all of a sudden he's gone and he hasn't completed the program. Then, you may close back down again for lunch, do a count, then open it right back up after the person eats their lunch. So you go right from that 11 or 12 o'clock count, whatever it is, to lunch. And then maybe there could be another attempt at yard, or at least some level of outside time of cell. So out of cell doesn't always have to mean that they're out in a yard. It could just mean that they're out of their cell. So being on a pod. And then it does mention that he gets visits. So again, that's time out of cell. And then you also have the time that he sleeps. So if they lock down the facility, let's say 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever it is, you got to count that as immediate cell time until it opens up back in 6 in the morning. Now, I will tell you this: when you have inmates like this that could be considered in some level of isolated confinement, and what I mean by that is not because he has limited access to things, but because he's not around everyone,
Right.
they're definitely going to take note of every time he's out of that cell, minute by minute, just to keep track that, you know, he's not in that cell all day in some level of solitary confinement. And it does allow for some interactions with staff, however professional. So you're never truly isolated from human contact. It's not like you're in the dark and you don't know what time it is. I mean, the way it's structured is he's going to pretty much know what time of the day it is, pretty much by how meals are done, medication served. So he can probably go out of his cell for library, because I know they mentioned library or getting books. He could probably go out of the cell, which we said, obviously going out to yard. I believe that he may not be eating in his cell. He may be eating on the pod if it is a secured and empty pod. But I think I think the bigger question is if he's not in his cell, is he at least in the pod? And that has a big, because he did say this. He did say he could watch TV. He didn't.
I was just, you took the words right out of my mouth. He has access to TV inside his cell, and he has access to newspapers. So for me, you know, I mean, what kind of newspapers? Is this guy reading the Daily News? Is he reading the Post? That would be some of the questions I would have asked Sheriff Toulon if he was in front of me. Like,
you have to give them current events. I mean, that's part of.
So he could read about himself?
Well, unfortunately, see, that's another problem too, because I'm not so much worried about him reading about himself, worried about other inmates reading about himself. But you have to give him access to the outside world that is current.
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy. You're saying you have to. Like, I feel like somebody like him pending a trial, he shouldn't have access to it. But who am I? You know, I'm just.
Then the problem is, sad thing is, guys, I'm just being objective. I'm not a fan, but just being objective here is that then if there's stuff developed and he's out of the loop, you know, I mean, with that,
that's what his attorney's supposed to do, no?
Yeah, but
I don't know. I got a problem with that. But let's move on. I want to say thank you to all the super chatters. So I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. I want to say thank you to Carol Grayson for the becoming a member. Sue Mina, thank you for the $5 super chat. This was earlier on. Fuzzy Doxy says, thank you, DutyRon and Anthony. We love you. Thank you, Fuzzy Doxy. Crime and Wine sends in some California money. And California, Canadian fundage. Thank you so much. Okie dokie says, towards your bug spray fund. Keep missing the lives since you got your great escape. I got bit. Me and Joey Brooklyn got eaten alive. Anthony out at Gilgo. We went out there and did a live stream. Rookie mistake. I was wearing shorts. Alleyne, thank you for being a member for 6 months. Great points from Anthony. Of course, Anthony's always got great points. That's why I have him here. He's a professional, a consummate professional. Darlene Wolf, super sticker, $1.99. Thank you. Lilac Whispers, thank you for the $1.49. Looks like from the UK. Thank you for being here. Jason Lizowick. Lazowski, thank you. I screwed it up and I recovered. Thank you for the super sticker, $5. Appreciate that. Talk to Kel, thank you for the $1.99. And Galen, thank you for the $10 super chat. That covers all the super chatters. Thank you for everyone hanging in there tonight. Anthony, you got a book, and I want you to talk a little bit about your book, because I think we covered everything. We didn't talk about his emails. He's receiving mail. The sheriff says that they don't read the mail and they just scan through it. Before we go to your book, can you touch on that, because that kind of pisses a lot of people off. He can get mail from anybody and everybody. He can get books sent to him, and the sheriff says no, that they don't read the stuff. I thought that the jails and prisons and so forth, that they go through your stuff.
So I don't know if he confused the legal mail aspect. So basically, when it's legal mail, we cannot read it, but we can check it. But what we do is we open it up in front of the inmate to let them know that we're checking it for contraband. Usually what we're looking for is, whatever's not allowed in. Sometimes the paper could be soaked in some level of K2 or
said that. Yeah.
So, but basically for legal mail, we don't read that. We open it in front of the inmate, but we could verify if it's coming from a legal source. Even media is also protected. So like, how the media is making the request to visit him, we can't really deny that if the inmate requests it. If the inmate doesn't want it, that's great. Sorry, guys, you can't come in. But if he does request immediate attention and there is an interest, it's very hard for us to deny that. Same thing with a legal visit. They're very protected. As for regular mail, if you're an inmate writing to another inmate, I'm sure you could check to see what's going on, whether you're the receiving facility of the mail. So I may say, hey, I got a guy from my county writing to a guy at your facility. In some cases, you may even, the inmate may have to request for permission, and then you let the authority of the receiving facility let them know that you have an inmate that's writing to one of their inmates. And usually the receiving facility may kind of go through it, skim through it, look for anything key. But you do also have inmates that could be on a watch list, and outside of legal mail, their mail could be read. Because again, of their actions that, they believe that the person behind the wall is still a threat. But I will tell you this, and I think that's what the top cop mentioned, is that we do not read their legal mail. When we get their legal mail, we go to the inmate or call them to us, however that part of that works for that facility. But you open it in front of the inmate and you let them see that you're going through it to make sure there's no contraband. And then you go ahead and you give it over to the inmate. And if there's a question as to whether it's valid, there's certain sites you can go to see if the lawyer or if it's legit, or you can even.
Seems like a lot of work, Anthony, to do to go through 700 plus inmates mail, and of course, not all of them get it. But that's a lot of work, man. Curious Kiwi from New Zealand says, Kia ora. Good to see you. Thank you, Curious Kiwi. Sorry, no sympathy for Heuermann. He didn't have any sympathy for the victims or the conditions he left them in along Ocean Parkway. Yeah, I kind of agree. Thank you for that super chat. Dawn Marie sends in a message. Thank you, DutyRon. Thank you for always being so informative, boss man. Thank you, Dawn Marie. Thank you for all you do as moderator and a friend here on Crime Time with DutyRon. There was another one, JoJo, member for 17 months, sending blue hearts. Natasha Richardson, always a great friend and a contributor in the live chat and in the comments below. If you're not yet subscribed to Crime Time with DutyRon, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Follow me on all things social media, one word, DutyRon. Also subscribe to Anthony, host of Tier Talk. He's a great guy. He's got his own YouTube channel. I have him linked as one of my suggested channels here. So definitely go over and check out Anthony's YouTube channel. He has a bunch of great stuff with Russ and Connie. I guess Connie got caught up tonight. Tell her that we missed her because we love Connie. She's awesome. Anthony, talk about, you got a book coming out. It's in the background. I have it up here. It says, How to Succeed in Corrections, Lessons Learned While Working in a Prison by Anthony Gangi. Talk about that.
All right, so the book is out. It's released by Blue 360 Media, which is the #1 publishing company for law enforcement books. I wrote this book because when I look back at my 21 years, what are the things I wish I would have known then? So this book is really geared on just advice and tips from not just myself, but other professionals in the field. And what's good about this book is, and I think it could be applied elsewhere, is, believe it or not, a lot of stuff that happens in corrections, because we are dealing with managing human behavior, can be applied in real life. I mean, there's a lot of lessons. Inmate Manipulation Decoded, that book right behind me. However, I can't even get it.
I see it. We see it.
It's go that way, whatever the hell it is. It's weird. But that book, I've had people reach out to me saying, hey, Gange, after I read that book, I noticed that my boyfriend was playing me, with some of the things with the guilt trips and some of the tactics that are employed. So even though the book is written for a niche, and I get it because that is my audience and I want to serve them first, I feel that there's a lot of stuff in those books that could be applied. If you have I guess if you're innovative with what you're reading, if you're able to kind of see, hey, you know what, this could apply in other things. I mean, there's leadership lessons there. There's dealing with inmates, interactions with inmates that can apply to interactions out in the real world. And when you buy that book, because I kind of want to use for training as well, you also get a free ebook and then the app. So as again, and then one more thing about this book, I thought this was unique. There's a passage after each passage is notes and then advice that you would give. And the reason why I did that is because my hopes at the end of the day is because we have good people that are leaving this profession in droves, and sometimes when they leave, they take away their core values, what this profession's about. And in my effort to kind of stay true to what those core values are, I gave a spot for them to write in the book. And when they see somebody who they feel has the greatest potential, they could pass off their legacy, their hard lessons learned to this person on day one. And that was my goal. And now I'm in the process of doing another book for Blue 360 Media to help our rookie staff. But again, it's all an effort to give people the knowledge that I wish I had going in, and an effort also to create a legacy so I can be remembered. I mean, that's the key. I want to be remembered for doing something great. So
and this is great stuff. Awesome. Anthony, do I have your permission to show you doing your short intro?
Oh, yes, please. Thanks, man. To inmate interactions, tactical.
Hold on. How do I get this to go back? Hold on, Anthony. Hold on. I want to play it from the beginning.
Thank you.
Here we go.
All right, guys, the book is out. How to Succeed in Corrections, Lessons Learned While Working in a Prison. It is available at blue360media.com. You go to the website, buy it for $39.95, and you also get a free ebook. Guys, is
there any coupon code? $39.95? Damn.
That's the publisher.
I'm only kidding. I'll buy 2 of them. Don't worry about it. Here's my thing, Anthony. I love how proud you look. It's probably standing on your front lawn. And this little YouTube short on your channel, and again, everybody subscribe, hit that little button right down here and subscribe.
Thanks.
You just seem so proud of, this is 20 plus years of your blood, sweat, and tears in corrections, right?
Yeah.
This book, I want to let the rest of this play because you really go over it pretty good here, and this is a great visual.
Tons of advice in here, from leadership to inmate interactions, tactical, working with other departments. I mean, this is really insight from my 20 years of experience working in corrections. As you can see, look how thick that book is. As you can see, you got tons of little chapters. And just to show you, each chapter has a quote from someone else that's in the profession, someone that's walked the walk. Then you got my passage, some highlighted thoughts, and then you can add your notes as well as advice. And guys, if you're an instructor, this is definitely a must-have. Blue360media.com. Get your book today.
Who is the camera person on that?
That was my wife.
Nice. She did a good job. All right, listen, guys and girls, I have Anthony's book and everything linked in the description here. Again, go over and support him. Get his book. Read it. He's got many books. Look, Inmate Decoded, Inmate Manipulation Decoded behind him. Support Connie and Russ and the whole crew over there at Tier Talk. This has been an hour and 25 minutes of a really enlightening conversation. And the reason it's been so informative is because of my great guest, Anthony Gangi from Tier Talk. So the friendship that we created here on YouTube professionally and on the side is just outstanding. So I thank you for, anytime I reach out to this guy, he's like, unless he's out of the country, he's like, yeah, DutyRon, let's do it. Let's rock it.
Even if I'm out of the country, I would.
So there you go.
I mean, if I could just comment, I'm obviously a smaller YouTube channel. So a few years back, Ron hits me up. At the time, he only had about 39,000, but he was growing super fast because of the love and support that's given him through the audience, the engagement. And when he gave me a chance to go on to his community, because that to me is a lot of trust. I mean, these are people that, you have a lot of respect for. You have to be very careful who you put onto your show, because you want to make sure that they provide good information for your dedicated audience, because they're coming to you because you give them knowledge that they're able to apply outside of also the stuff that you do, the way you give back. So just being able to be a part of your family and do this, it's humbling, Ron, because I know how much trust that goes in when you put somebody onto your platform. So from my family to yours, even promoting the book and whatever it is that you did, trust me. I mean, it's humbling to know someone like yourself believes in what I'm trying to do, and to let me meet your audience and how supportive they are. This is the best way. Even if I was on vacation, I would want to spend it.
Wow. Awesome. You know, Anthony, I got to tell you, and I've said this before to you privately and on the air, because of what I did within the New York City Police Department, I just wasn't a regular cop and a detective. I worked in that fugitive enforcement division where we were on that trip team where I flew. I drove to different facilities. And my last 3 to 4 years, I dealt exclusively with correction officials. I dealt with executives. I dealt with the prison staff, low line, frontline guys and girls, the grunts. And that's what really gave me, because most police officers, they just see jails and prisons as just like a dirty place, a place that, they're not doing the work that we're doing. But I got to see how difficult that job is and how dangerous it is. And I just have so much respect for the men and women who work, and also the civilians that work within corrections. It's a dangerous job. I feel equally, if not more dangerous than out in the street. So it's a very, very tough profession, and you got to have a pair of brass balls to do that job. And I got a lot of respect for you, for the guys and girls behind the wall. Anthony, I have to get to some of these starred super chats. Talk to Kel sent in $1.99. Galen snuck in with another $10. Schmitty, always remember, 22 months. I still want a pen, but now I want bug spray. Smitty, Smitty won't let me live down the getting eaten alive over on Gilgo Beach. Jamie Johnson, a member for 18 months. Look at these. Look at the times of how long we've been members. Appreciate Anthony being on. Great guest. Curious Kiwi. Again, I highlighted that one. Jojo, member for 17 months. Dawn Marie, a member for 39 months. Schmitty, again, banging out $5, talking about perhaps you can sell bug spray on your merch store. You can even call it... I'm not even going there. You're a pisser. Black Rose 11, member for 31 months. Anthony Gangi and DutyRon, a lot of hearts. Talk to Kel. Thank you for becoming a member. I hope we don't disappoint you. I know that you're going to love this community. So thank you to everyone who has recently subscribed here tonight. I'm watching you on a loop here on my second monitor, just with the book. I just love it. I can't wait to actually sit down and have a dinner with you, and maybe Connie, and I know Russ is on the other side of the country. So maybe the three of us could get together, and maybe we'll grab Melanie Little, because when she was on with us the last time you were here, she went into the whole thing about the typewriter. It was just funny. I made a YouTube short about it.
I saw it.
Hilarious stuff. All right, guys and girls, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Anthony Gangi from Tier Talk, we want to wish you guys a good evening. Thank you so much for all the support here. Your replay viewers are phenomenal. The replay viewers and the folks who leave comments, thank you. The live chatters. If I didn't get to you, just know this. I love you. I appreciate you. I respect you. The time that you spend here, you could spend it somewhere else. So I'm honored that you're here for an hour and 30 minutes hanging out with us. So much love and respect from my house to yours. And thank you to all the cups of coffee. I mean, my phone has been lighting up. Somebody sent 33 cups of coffee to me tonight. I'm going to be drinking coffee till the end of the year. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, I don't take anybody for granted. I appreciate and respect and honor every bit of support that we get here. Anthony, thank you. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Stand by for an important message from the cop team. Anthony, hang out. We got to talk.